The whole city is waiting for a spectacle today. The monster named Green Wee will finally get the punishment he deserves. But before this man ends up on the scaffold, let's find out why he is considered the most terrible person in the world. The famous criminal Jean-Baptiste Green is due to be sentenced today. The bound man is dragged to the main square, where a huge crowd is gathered. All the townspeople curse Green Wee and insist on a very cruel execution. The court agrees with the opinion of the crowd and promises to use the most incredible tortures, after which the criminal will definitely die. We will learn the life story of this terrible man. His mother was a poor merchant. She gave birth to her baby right in the middle of the fish market. It was the smelliest place in all of Paris. The smell was so disgusting that it was impossible to breathe. The mother immediately abandoned her child and ran away. Random passers-by noticed the baby, and soon found his mother. This woman was immediately executed. Tiny Greenie was brought to an orphanage. There were many orphaned children or those who had been abandoned by their parents. The older children wanted to get rid of another hungry competitor, but the owner of the shelter noticed it and saved the baby. At the age of 5, Green Wee still could not speak, but he could distinguish all kinds of smells incredibly accurately. He sniffed every interesting object and collected a whole collection of things that smelled especially nice. The other kids continued to bully him because they were really afraid of him. Green Wee grows up and finally starts talking, but he notices that words are not enough to express everything he feels. The owner of the shelter sells the greens to the local tanner Grimal for 10 francs. The boy becomes his pupil. He works 16 hours a day, both in summer and winter. One day, a guy is sent to Paris to deliver goods to local customers. It is there, in the middle of a big city, that Green Wee realizes that he really has a superhuman sense of smell. He enjoys all the new scents, and there are infinitely many of them in the vast Paris. Green Wee approaches the perfume shop and enthusiastically watches the work of the local perfumer. A man offers a rich client his new fragrance called Cupid and Psyche, but soon the guy is attracted by some new smell. It turns out that it comes from a red-haired girl selling yellow plums. Green Wee follows her. The girl offers him to buy some plums from her, but the guy tries to smell her hand and scares the girl with his unusual behavior. She escapes, and fireworks are set off in Paris. Green Wee is running around the city looking for a charming stranger. He finds her in a deserted place and sees her cutting her plums. The guy comes closer and greedily sniffs at her. To prevent the girl from screaming, he covers her mouth and accidentally cuts off her air supply. Realizing that the red-haired beauty shows no signs of life, he leaves her without clothes and sniffs every part of her body for a long time. Soon this pleasant smell disappears, and Green Wee is very upset. He becomes obsessed with recreating her scent. At that time, there were about 10 perfumers working in Paris. Among them was a famous Italian master named Giuseppe Baldini. He worked in a personal perfume shop, but recently he had a creative crisis, and he could not create any new fragrance. Baldini had to use the perfume formulas of his competitors to keep at least a few customers. One evening, Green Wee delivers goatskin to Baldini's store. The guy admits that he feels the scent of Amora Psyche perfume here, and tells what they consist of. Green Wee is sure that this is a bad fragrance, and offers several ideas on how to make it better. Baldini is amazed by this guy's incredible talent. But just a good nose is not enough, because there must be knowledge and experience, and Green Wee does not have them. Our hero says that he wants to recreate the fragrance of Amora Psyche to prove his professionalism, and he really does it. And after that, Green Wee slightly changes this formula and creates a completely new, incredible, amazing fragrance. Alas, Baldini refuses to appreciate the new fragrance and chases the guy out of his store. When the guy leaves, he opens a bottle with a new fragrance and almost goes crazy with pleasure. Baldini goes to a tanner and buys a greenie for 50 francs. Our hero creates new perfume formulas for his master. In return, Green Wee asks the master to teach him how to preserve different flavors. Baldini explains that all perfumes are made up of a harmony of 12 scents. However, the ancient Egyptians believed that truly original perfumes contained another, 13th fragrance. But no one has yet been able to find this mysterious component. Baldini shows his student the method of distilling aromas and producing concentrated essences. He demonstrates this by using the example of essential oil from rose petals. Green Wee is very disappointed because this method does not capture and preserve the odors of all objects. For example, it does not detect the odors of iron, glass, copper, and most importantly, animals and people. Upon learning about this, Greenway loses consciousness and ends up in the hospital. Baldini tells his student that there is another method of preserving perfumes in the city of Grasse. Upon hearing about this, our hero immediately recovers. Baldini writes out to Green the documents of a perfumer student in exchange for 100 new perfume formulas. However, immediately after his departure, Baldini's house collapses, and the man does not survive under the rubble. Greenway travels to the legendary city of Grasse. He decides to take a break from people for a while and live in a large cave in the middle of the high Rocky Mountains. There, Greenway remembers his past and finally realizes that he himself does not have any personal scent. That's why other people find him strange or suspicious. Realizing this, Greenway leaves his cave and continues on his way. Our hero finally arrives in Grasse and catches an incredible new scent. He comes from Laura, the red-haired daughter of local aristocrat Antoine Richie. Greenway decides that this particular fragrance will become the 13th component of his legendary perfumes, capable of giving a person heavenly pleasure. He gets a job at a local perfume shop and learns the enfleurage method. It is the art of extracting various perfume essences and preserving them. Greenway begins his personal perfume experiments. Late in the evening, he watches a date between a pretty young girl and her boyfriend. When the guy leaves, Greenway kidnaps this girl and tries to extract her scent with a hot enfleurage. However, the man does not succeed. This smell cannot be preserved. Greenway finds a woman who provides various services for money and wants to use cold enfleurage on her. That is, smear it with animal fat, which should absorb its smell. The woman doesn't like it and wants to leave. Greenway uses a knife and continues to work with the technique of cold enfleurage. This time, he successfully retains her scent. Greenway continues to keep an eye on Laura. He is sure that this girl should become the most valuable pearl in his collection. The girl feels that someone is watching her, and she is very worried about it. At the same time, Greenway commits a series of different crimes. He chooses only young women and preserves their scents. The man leaves the girls without signs of life in various parts of the city, and soon panic begins in Grasse. People are afraid to let their daughters out of the house, especially the most beautiful ones. Alas, the investigators are unable to find any evidence, and the perpetrator continues to be at large. Greenway collects his first 12 fragrances and plans an attack on Laura. After all, this girl should become his 13th, most important and most valuable fragrance. Perfumes from all 13 scents will be able to make people fall in love, drive them crazy, and subdue crowds of people. By the way, to properly extract the smell from a girl's body, her body needs to be coated with animal fat, and her hair carefully cut off. The Archbishop sentences the criminal in absentia. He will be excommunicated from the church forever, will never be able to know the sacrament of Holy Communion, and will never be forgiven. Decide to worry about his daughter's safety, and wants to leave the city with her. The girl refuses and runs away from her father, but then realizes that he is right, and it is not safe to be in Grasse. Laura's father has nightmares at night. He runs to his daughter's room and sees that the window is open, but the girl herself is fine. They leave Grasse urgently in the morning. The problem is that Grenouille has an incredible nose, and he rushes in pursuit of Laura. The man follows her scent. Reshi rents a huge hotel by the sea and forbids the owners to let strangers in here. He tells his daughter that he will hide her in a convent on a small island, and then secretly marry her to a rich count. Using his super charm, Grenouille finds Laura in a seaside hotel and secretly sneaks into her room while the girl is sleeping. Our hero moves like a shadow, and since he doesn't have any smell, even dogs can't sense him. The girl opens her eyes, but she doesn't even have time to scream. In the morning, Reshi washes his face, puts on his doublet, and goes to his daughter's room. Alas, a very creepy picture awaits him there. He sees Laura with no hair, no clothes, and no signs of life. Grenouille creates his legendary fragrance, consisting of 13 components. Just a few minutes later, he is arrested by soldiers. Grenouille is being tortured, demanding that the man explain why he committed all these crimes. However, the man does not answer these questions. Reshi promises Grenouille that the crowd will hear his screams for at least 3 days. And now comes the day of the announcement of the verdict. A huge crowd gathers in the city. People talk only about Grenouille's monstrous crimes and prepare to see the executioner punish the man who terrified the whole city. On the day of his execution, Grenouille applies a drop of the legendary fragrance, which he created using the bodies of 13 girls. The executioner and the crowd are going crazy from this intoxicating smell. Everyone unanimously declares Grenouille innocent. The man pours another drop of perfume on his snow-white handkerchief and throws it into the crowd. Stunned by this fragrance, people worship Grenouille, calling him an angel and the new Messiah. This smell not only saves Grenouille's life, but also makes people behave very indecently. Even the Archbishop does it. And only Grenouille does not take any part in this, although in fact, he would really like to do it with that very first red-haired girl. Reshi approaches the criminal with his sword to avenge Laura, but he is driven crazy by the scent of Grenouille. The man hugs the criminal and calls him his son. In the morning, the crowd comes to their senses and goes in search of the criminal. By mistake, they execute Grenouille's last employer and close the case. Meanwhile, Grenouille himself goes to Paris. He has enough spirits to rule the whole world. However, this man understands that even this legendary fragrance cannot make him loved or teach him to love like a normal person. Disappointed, Grenouille returns to the very Parisian fish market where he was born. It still smells disgusting. Grenouille pours a whole bottle of his perfume on his head. The crowd goes crazy from this incredible, fantastic fragrance and rushes to Grenouille. Everyone wants to tear off at least a piece of it. The next morning, only his clothes and a bottle of perfume remain at the market from which the last drop falls.